Yo, what's good? So continuing on with like my book summaries, if you cared and if you've been watching, I just want to make a quick summary of The Disciplined Trader now. I'm just going over the key ideas. If you're smooth brain like me, if you just want a summary, bare bone summary, I got you, bro. I simplified it, I understood it, and I just want to make a quick video kind of going over my key ideas, my honest takeaways, and just just like what you want to learn from it. Like if you were to read it, what would you learn? So what better way to do it than through a beautiful slideshow. So here we are, The Disciplined Trader by Mark Douglas, a summary by yours truly, Sanuka. So let's get on with this, bro. So 0.0 to preface, this book didn't teach me how to trade. I think we know this. It showed me why I keep getting in my own way of trading. I'm the one that's doing myself wrong. I'm the reason that I'm not profitable. It's not the markets, it's not the edge, it's me, and it's like my fault. This book made me realize that I need to master myself, master my emotions, master my mind first, and then that is when I'll be able to how do I say, like, find success. So if you've read Trading in the Zone, it's kind of about what is wrong with your mindset. But The Disciplined Trader, this one actually came up before. This one is about why your brain keeps sabotaging you. So that's like the main difference between the two. I like to think of it like, The Disciplined Trader, like overall reading it, I feel like Disciplined Trader was like, I don't know if you relate this to Travis Scott, we got Owl Pharaoh, it's just a discombobulated, but then we got like Rodeo, or we got Days Before Rodeo, which is more cohesive, which is like Trading in the Zone kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of to preface, let's move on to point number one. Okay, so point number one here is that you can't control the markets, you can only control yourself. Wait, am I recording? Okay. So the key ideas for this is that we're used to changing the outside world. As a baby, we cry for what we want. If something doesn't work out, we'll feel sad. If you're like zesty, then you'll cry when something doesn't work out. You'll cry when you're painful, and you're trying to manipulate the outside world to get what you want. You're trying to negotiate, you're trying to do all this shit, but you can't really negotiate the market because the market's just going to do its own thing. Also, like, we're older now, like, we're not trying to cry to the markets. Like, I guess, like, maybe, I don't even know, but like the markets just don't care, bro. The markets are just there. The market's just giving you the information. You can't control it, and you can just only control how you perceive it. So the only thing you have control over is your behavior, your actions, your reactions. Whoa, that rhymed. Your actions, your reactions, and your mindset are the only things that you can control. If you're attached to some outcome, if you attach price to a certain meaning, then you feel sad if something doesn't work out. Like I said in the Trading in the Zone, you don't want to be so attached, you don't want to be so emotional. You can only control yourself, you can only control your behavior, your actions, and your reactions, kind of what I said. So for me, every mistake that I made in the market was actually just my behavior showing up in the charts. If I felt like I was missing out, then I would force myself to enter something. If I was mad, I would try revenge trading. I would try making back what I lost. And once I understood that it was only me, blaming the market kind of just becomes like kind of dumb to do. You just have to like look into yourself and just ask what is wrong with you when the market is just there, brother. Like I said in the Trading in the Zone one, the market is completely objective. You're the one that's assigning meaning. You can't blame the markets because the market is just there, bro. It's just dumb to like blame the markets, that it's because they're not really doing anything. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's point number one. Okay, so point number two here is that losses hurt because of expectations. Pain comes from unfulfilled expectations. We have future beliefs on what will happen, and if those don't happen, like, our hope will die. We'll feel sad, and then we'll just feel like emotional pain. Like in the book, it's mainly saying like, yo, emotional pain in trading doesn't only come from losing money. It comes from these expectations that are unfulfilled. That's like the emotional side of it. Losing money, maybe that's physical, but it could be mental as well. But like the unfulfilled like expectations is also like a main cause of the emotional pain. Also, it says that fear narrows opportunity. So if we're trying to avoid like losing, like we have a fear of losing, we'll become like, yo, we're trying to avoid that fear, we're trying to avoid losing, we'll hesitate then, and then that like hesitation will cause us to maybe even cut winners. We might avoid good trades, and then we just end up manifesting what we feared. Like, we're not going to get anywhere if we're not doing anything because we're scared of the progress. You got to be willing to take that risk. You can't be scared of losing. You have to be truly okay with taking a risk, truly okay with losing that, and just moving on to the next one, bro. Like, you're just gonna keep on manifesting the losses if you try and avoid them, because that's just like how the fucking world works, bro. It's really that simple, bro. And I struggle to this, like, to this day, If I lose, I still feel sad. If I try avoiding a loss, I'll end up hesitating. I'll get a worse entry, or I'll like take my profits early. And in the long run, it'll cause you to not become a successful trader. You won't be able to find success in trading. You'll just be stuck in the same spot where you are. And that's honestly the main thing where I'm struggling with. I'm not profitable yet. I'm not saying that you have to listen to me, but honestly, this is my main takeaways from the book. Anyways, point number 3 here is that beliefs shape everything you see. This is very important. This is like the main idea. This and the next point, those are like what really define the book and like, differ it from like trading in the zone. But the key idea is that we only see what aligns with our beliefs. There's so many different ways you could say this. Like there's so many different ways people say this, but this is honestly how I see it. We only see what we aligns with our beliefs. The market is neutral, like I said, like a million times. But what we see in the markets is what we believe, what we assign meaning to the prices. That's what we see. We only see what we want to see. If we see such a beautiful long setup, we're going to try and ignore the information that says it should be a short. Like even if that information might be true, we're going to avoid that information just so that we could align with what we think is right, what we think is the correct thing to happen. But you can't do that because you need to be realistic in trading, bro. Like if something is saying that you can't take this long setup because it should be a short setup, you shouldn't be taking a long setup because that's just wrong. That's just dumb. You got to be objective, and that assigning of like meaning to price and everything, that comes from the beliefs that we have. That comes from not being objective on the charts, and that's what causes you to like freaking mess up in the future. It's just like it filters your ideas. You only see the information that confirms your beliefs, then you act on that information, and then you reinforce the belief that like you want to see. And that's not good at all, because that will freaking cook you. You can't do that because like you just can't do it. You got to be objective. You got to be like living in the real world. You can't just live life like a fairy tale, like everything is like not real. We're not in like a freaking fairy tale, bro. It's like the real world. So that's kind of point 3. Point number 4 is that discipline creates self-trust. So this book kind of brings in the idea of, I think this is the one where he talks about like the first time he started running or something. I don't know if that's trading in the zone. But the key idea is here is that rules equal accountability. Self-trust comes from consistency, and fear is the fear of trading is like the fear of yourself not being able to do things. Like here, I'll just explain this. So discipline in trading isn't really about like willpower, like controlling yourself. It's about creating self-trust. You got to be able to trust yourself in order to execute correctly on the markets. The more you follow your rules, the more you'll trust yourself, and the more you'll trust yourself, then the less emotional the market feels. Because the fear of trading comes from the fear of your inability to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. You're scared of the charts because you're scared of not being able to act properly on the charts, and you're scared of you're gonna lose because you didn't act properly on this part, and then you're gonna just lose, and you're just gonna be scared. You can't do that. You got to be able to have confidence in yourself to do the right thing, then to do the right thing, and then the outcome will be a reflection of how you performed from that first decision or that first thing that you need to do. You can't you just can't you just need to have that self-trust kind of thing. Because if you just if you don't trust yourself, you're going to be underconfident, and you're going to start hesitating. You're going to be doing all this dumbass shit when you should just be focused on being able to have confidence in yourself. It's like, like the example of him running. If you start running for one day, then you might be a bit motivated to do the second day, the third day, fourth day, fifth day. But like on that like 9th day or 10th day, you're going to feel like not doing it. But like if you like look back at the evidence of you doing your work, the running from the previous days, you just will do it because you have that kind of discipline. You have that self-belief in yourself in being a runner. And once you believe that you're a runner, then you'll move on. Wait, did it stop recording because of that? Okay, wait, no. Every day that you prove yourself that you're like a profitable trader, that you are a person who follows their rules, then the next day you'll be more motivated to follow your rules, and you'll be more likely to follow your rules. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of building that self-belief, kind of building that self-trust, and becoming a person that will follow their rules, kind of stuff like that. So that's how you become like a disciplined trader. So now point 5 really quick is just forcing responsibility. Key ideas here is that there's no safety net, no one's stopping you, and you must end your losses. Like I said in the river example, I don't know if I said it in this video, but you control how much you go in, you control how far you go in, and you control when you get out. If we like relate this to trading now, the markets are the chart, like the charts are the river, and you control how much you go in, you control how much you go out, you control when you get in, stuff like that. So you can't blame it on anything else. You can't blame it on the river because the river's just there. You're the one who got into the water in the first place. You can't blame the river for doing the river stuff. You blame you for doing the stuff you did. So it's kind of like that, you know, you have no boss, you have no structure, and there's no one to stop you from making those bad decisions. So you just got to be disciplined. You have to have that self-trust, that confidence in yourself to make the right decisions when you need to. You know, if you lose money, then that's the only way, like there's only one place responsibility can go. It can only go to yourself. You know, like if you win, then good on you. You won. You did that yourself. You know, you can't, like, it's not anyone else who did it unless you went for further people. But like, you know, the natural tendency is like, if something's good, then we'll say that we did it. But if something's bad, then we'll just say, oh, it was someone else, like it was someone else's fault. And you know, we can't do that, you know, because the market is just the market, bro. You know, you can't have that external like manipulation, that external like blame, you know what I'm saying, to keep it simple kind of thing. Like that's just like what it means, like forcing responsibility. So quick honest takeaways here is that you can't control the markets, you can only control yourself. Losses come from the broken expectations that we have. Beliefs, they will filter our reality, they will like filter what we see, what we don't want to see. The market is truly neutral, discipline builds self-trust, and trading will force yourself to be responsible. So I don't know why I did that, but that's honestly pretty much it. Thank you for watching and listening. Make sure to like if it helped, and let me know if you have any other recommendations or any other ideas I should do. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.